All right, good day, everyone. My name is Matt Fifer. Welcome to Conversations on Retail. I am so excited to welcome Jake Karls, the co-founder and Rainmaker from Midday Squares. And I would say that Jake is a guy that requires no introduction because he is so visible on LinkedIn in particular, which is where I hang out, but I'm sure on other social media channels. Jake, it's great to see you. I know you're very busy, especially this time of the year. Thank you so much for making a few minutes to visit.
Matt, you're a rock star. It's great to hang again. And yeah, I'm super fired up to talk about, the disruption and all that storytelling stuff because it's relevant for every brand that's in retail, every brand that isn't in retail. It's the future, in my opinion, of all marketing. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I was really excited to kick off this new series focused on challenger brands. And you're one of the first people that I reached out to because I think of you all as kind of the little engine that could. You're a little company that doesn't like really believe it's a little company. And it's just such a fascinating story. So congratulations to you and your co-founders and the entire team on your success. If you would, and I don't want to linger here long, but for those that are not familiar with Midday Squares, sort of tell the story of your startup and then catch us up to where you are today.
Yeah, so we started Midday Squares, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I, in August of 2018. So we're 6 years ago, within the next 2 weeks. And the idea was to build a new age chocolate bar company. So we kind of wanted to take like what Hershey and Mars or, some of Mondelez brands have built over the last 70 years and, apply what does that look like today in 2024? Like what would that be? And in 2018, that's what we did. And it was basically create a product that's functional. So chocolate bar that has, not just indulgence, but has, protein, fibers, good fats, keeps you full, keeps you energized, makes you feel good. But then also on the brand side, be a brand that communicates at a very relevant level, meaning that we tell a story that actually means something to the individual so we can actually create those emotional bonds. Instead of talking about the chocolate bar, we talk about how we build the business. That way you're more involved and interested in the company. And, when we started in our condo kitchen in August 2018, hand making these bars, like then we're making 80 bars a day, fast forward to, 5.5, almost 6 years later, we built our own manufacturing plant here in Montreal out of necessity that, can do 90,000 bars per day, every 24 hours, which is fascinating. And then, we're this year we're going for anywhere from 30 to 35 million in revenue. We are profitable as an organization and, we're a team of 50 folks, again, mostly in manufacturing. But, I think something, interesting about Midday Squares is the stores that we are in, the retailers that we are currently selling at across North America, we're number 1 and 2 in the entire set. So in terms of velocities, units per SKU per week. So we're proud of that and we're taking our time. So for us, one thing about Midday Squares is it's not in a rush to grow. It's the idea is to foundationally build something very impactful that can be here for the next 100 years and be relevant to the consumer, both from a product market fit standpoint, but also from a brand standpoint.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm fond of saying is that people generally don't create emotional connection with products and services and companies. We connect with other people, and we want to do business with people that we know, we like, we trust, and respect. And one of the things that strikes me about Midday Squares is your personality. It's not swagger, it's certainly not irreverence, but it's almost playful. But I would love for you to talk a little bit about the personality of Midday Squares. And is that something that was developed naturally, or was it something that you all sat down at the very beginning and said, okay, this is what the product's going to perform, of course, but this is what we want the culture of the organization or the personality of the brand to represent?
Yeah, and I think it's critical to talk about the fact that product market fit is critical in business. So let's put that aside. That means given you have that, the next thing you need to do is emotionally connect to the consumer. Whether you're in services, whether you're in consumer products like us, you need to emotionally connect. So when we started the business, our goal was tell the story, show the good, the bad, the ugly of how we build Midday Squares on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn, all the Facebook, all these platforms where we can actually get people to feel part of our journey. So when they go to the store, they feel like they're buying from a friend. They don't feel like they're buying from a consumer product, but they feel like, hey, I know that team. I love them. I want them to win. I want to be part of that process. So what that meant that we were going to be on camera. Our faces were going to be in a lot of zones. We were going to go on TVs. We were going to go on all over social media, millions of views. And we needed people to understand that Midday Squares itself also has its own personality and brand. And it's not just Jake, Nick, and Leslie, my partners and I. And what we really wanted to identify and portray was that we are unapologetic brand, meaning we are bold. We will do what we think is what right for us. And what that shows is that we have conviction, that we are true to who we are. And we try to show that when people look at our brand saying, yeah, Midday Squares is going against the big guys. They are building something innovative. They are disrupting. And all that comes back down to in a personality is they're being bold and they're taking those risks. And if we can encourage others to feel that when they look at our brand or have our product, then the world will be a more risk-taking place for us. And that's what we hope to show is take risks, be yourself, and you'll see what winning looks like. Again, whether you fail or win, it's still a win because you could learn from the failure, right? So that's the personality. So we consciously try to show that boldness through our, marketing initiatives, our storytelling. And that's the emotion we're trying to kick in on the individual.
Yeah. There's always an inclination for us to say, y'all make it look really easy. You don't make it look easy. You make it look really hard. And then the reason I say that is because you work the business. You're always on. And when you're on, you're super high energy. Sort of talk about the culture you created within your business. And I'm curious, does the entire organization match your energy, match your passion and conviction?
So it's a great question. So myself, I'm an extrovert and I'm wild and I get energized by people. So people give me the life. And my role at Midday Squares is, yes, I founded the company with my partners, but my role specifically is a rainmaker, meaning I am simply there to make friends for the company. So I make friends in retail, in business services, in finance, in legal, in media, in new team members. And I bring that relationship back to the business. So I need to be out there nonstop, on the go, high energy, giving people, giving. Now, here at Midday Squares, our culture is a little bit of that. It's not fully that because that's not sustainable as a business. But what's sustainable is that we like to say that, we do spread good energy, but we work really, excuse my language, fucking hard. And we're trying to do something that is very hard to do, win in a space, refrigerated space, against all, there's limited space, all this stuff. And so our culture is more of that. And so how we embrace it is that we hustle, we work hard, and we're willing to die on this hill while doing it, meaning we're willing to give it our all. And that creates a culture where people want to either be part of or not be part of. It's very black or white, in my opinion. But we're very transparent. This environment at Midday Squares is consciously very transparent, vulnerable, and open-minded, meaning we talk about really bad things and really good things here. And communication is at the forefront of this organization. We go to therapy, my partners and I, we talk about therapy, we talk about all this stuff. And that's what the organization has come. But I could sure as hell tell you that we are going against all odds trying to win. So we have a winning culture. And again, we've had a lot of turnover from because of it, because it's not the easiest place to work at. It's really not. But I can assure you that everyone is treated with respect, and my positivity and my energy is what I try to bring, but it's not surrounded everywhere because, you still have to have bureaucracy and corporate structure if you want to scale a business to a meaningful level. Yeah.
I would describe you as someone who has having a real love affair with his brand, with his company, with his partners, with his team. But you've also been pretty open, to share, the highs and the lows. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are really afraid. Honest is probably not the right word, but we always like to project this image that everything is going according to plan. Everything's perfect. I'm getting plenty of rest and all my relationships are great. But you're a guy that's been somewhat transparent. I'm sure no one knows you. Like, obviously, yourself and family knows you, but talk about some of the tolls that the ups and downs of sort of the startup life has taken on you and the other founders.
Yeah, it's been a painful journey, and it's also been an exhilarating journey, meaning top of the world one day and then you're on the bottom of the world the next day. And that is very hard mentally and physically, by the way, for your health. And at first I was embarrassed. I always tell people that, I felt sometimes, sad or lonely or depressed at times, because any startup is a pressure cooker, and I always say the entrepreneur that wins most of the time, or the person that wins in that space, is the one that could withstand the most amount of pain and pressure, to be honest. The one who stays in the longest or stays in the pocket, they usually win the biggest. So it's not for everybody. But one thing about the game is that it gives you a lot of freedom to explore and try things and be yourself, I guess, which is really powerful. But going through the hardships, it makes you do crazy things, and it makes you question a lot of things, and it makes you feel really lonely at times. And
Yeah.
I not speak about it, but now I openly speak about it because, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I couldn't put on a face. I couldn't put on a face showing that everything's good, everything's fine. It's not. It's up and down every single day. There's a fire going on right now, not like a real fire, but like a problem in the business in the current like moment that we're on a conversation right now. And I put that aside, but I have to go deal with it after, right? So like it's a
Yeah.
Friday, beautiful sunny
It's
day, and
always there.
it's always there. So
Yeah.
I always tell people, it's the good, bad, the ugly. And most people just don't share the other side. But, sharing the other side actually has actually, helped other people because it's like, well, wow, the vulnerability and the transparency makes me feel less alone that we're all in this, together. There's a lot of people that are going through very similar things. And yeah, we've been sharing that for the 5 years. It's very hard because your life is public at that point, and my partner's life is public, and people know a lot about you that don't even know you individually, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll make fun of you, they'll judge you, they'll put you down without even knowing who you are. Get trolled a lot. When you're getting millions of views organically from all over the world, some people might interpret something the wrong way and then really go at you, and it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
I'm still a human, and that was something that we acknowledged day one when we started to film and post everything, and that we were okay with that. And again, my partners and I go to therapy once a week together or individually to deal with these types of things. But the game is not for everybody. And Nike just put out a commercial, and I love talking about this because it's a controversial commercial for some reason, but it shouldn't be. It's called "Winning Isn't for Everybody," and they basically showed a bunch of the athletes going to the Olympics, and it showed that, talking about selfishness, about, not being always nice. And it talked about all these things that don't seem so positive. And then at the end, it goes, winning's not for everybody. And the truth is, it isn't. And going through this journey, it's not for everybody, because sometimes you have to be the mean, the not nice girl or not nice guy, right? And
Yeah.
and that it has effects mentally on you, right? And yeah, so I gladly talk about this. My partners gladly talk about this stuff because
Yeah.
it's important to get it out there. And yeah, like I don't think it's happy-go-lucky, and I think sometimes the media thinks that there are shows that it's happy-go-lucky, and it's the exact
Yeah.
opposite, actually.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to spend too much time here, but you're 100% right. There is a dark side to entrepreneurship. It is incredibly lonely. My favorite article of all time was written in Inc. magazine probably 15 years ago. And it's basically about imposter syndrome and how common that is among entrepreneurs. And it compares entrepreneurship to seeing a person riding on a lion. And you look at that person riding the lion, it's like, oh my gosh, that person is so brave. Look at him up there on top of that lion. And the reality is the guy on the lion is like, how in the hell did I get up here? And how am I going to keep this thing from killing me? And that is entrepreneurship. It's easy to look at people like you and say, my gosh, they're doing everything right. Their business is growing like crazy and they're getting all kinds of attention. They're probably making, piles of money. What in the world could he have to worry about in his life? And you probably have more to worry about than most do. So thank you for sharing that. So being a challenger brand is all about, going after those incumbents. It's about trying to take market share. I'm tripping over the words here, exactly, but it's all about disrupting categories and taking market share. So talk about what Midday Squares is doing in order to sort of attack the incumbents within the categories, because it really is a David versus Goliath game.
Everyone loves the underdog. This is programmed in evolution of us as humans. If you go back to time, it's always been the underdog that we as humans, get behind. So disruptor brands actually have this advantage if they lean into it, which is the underdog mentality. And it happens in politics. It happens everywhere. Like if you just look at the underdog stories, those are the winning stories. They end up getting the most amount of news cycle attention, fandom. And so for Midday Squares, that we're using that to our advantage, where yes, we're going into a space with, if you look at the chocolate world, even though we're a better for you chocolate bar, we're focused on the function, we're focused on protein, fiber, clean ingredients, we still have to grab some market share from the typical confection, chocolate bars. And the reason why I say that is because, eventually people are transitioning out of, high sugar chocolate or high palm oil, full of palm oil and all this stuff, to cleaner ingredients, because, our education on food health and gut health is super critical today. And they want to be attached to brands as well. People that don't even care. They want to just be emotionally connected. And the incumbents typically have a harder time today connecting to the consumer. And I think that's due to layers of bureaucracy and just the creativity gets blocked a lot of the time. And that gives us an advantage. So we're in this like zone where, yes, we don't have the space that, these incumbents have in the stores and the retailers, but we're slowly, day by day, one little step forward every day, getting more space. And the numbers are going up, the data is showing, and people are buying into it in terms of retailers, investors, media, where they get behind it. So the underdog just keeps getting raised and raised and raised. And eventually you have your shot to either make it or not make it at the scale. And you need meaningful scale to get there. And whether that means, one day partnering with one of them or partnering with someone that can help do that's critical too. But for us, we are focused on as much innovation as we can give to the consumer, which allows us to do different than the incumbents, is really strict innovation, meaning that, we do our own manufacturing so we can control literally the innovation process. Second is tell a story that the incumbent will never be able to tell, meaning social media is everywhere. People are on it every day, hours a day. So if you have an opportunity to grab their attention, you better be a great storyteller, because that's the only way someone's going to stop and want to look at a chocolate bar company. Think about that. Out of all things, there's so much things going on in the world. Why would they stop to look at a chocolate bar company? The only reason why they would stop is if our story is emotionally or relatable to their life. And we are able to do that where the incumbents are unable to do that. So again, building community and fandom through those two things, through via innovation and storytelling, is allowing us to win as the underdog over time. But things take a lot of time, and you have to have patience if you want to get there, over the next, 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I think getting on the shelf is a lot easier than growing, or even staying on the shelf. Getting a buyer to give you a shot inside a store is a lot of work, obviously, because in order to make room for you, they've got to take room away from somebody else. So I don't mean to, sort of take anything away from how hard that work is. But once you're on the shelf, then it becomes a game of keeping promises, both in terms of, the product's got to deliver. So a shopper wants to come back and make a second after they bought it once, buy it again and again and again, but also the ability to keep promises to the retailer that you've made on flowing goods and promotion and all those sorts of things. Talk about sort of balancing both parts of the business, in terms of making sure, obviously, the product, stands up to the promise of the brand, but also sort of the day-to-day operational, the execution, blocking and tackling that allows you to continue to stay in business with these retailers after you've done the hard work of selling in, and then ultimately looking for ways to grow.
So I think that your product needs to be, like I said, product market fit needs to be number one. Number two is you got to build relationships with these retailers. At the end of the day, you got to have a really direct communication with them where it's not through 10 different people to get to that retailer. And, you got to find out, you got to use data. You got to find out what works. What type of promo planning works? What type of traditional marketing works within the store? Is it flyers? Is it on their online app? What actually works on these platforms? And each retailer is different. And understanding when the right time is to go into a retailer is also critical. So for us at Midday Squares, we've rejected retailers, because we're just not ready. And we're not ready from a brand standpoint, or we may not be ready from the capacity standpoint, whatever it is. So this is something that is super, super critical. And also having the right team. You hire people that have been there, done that, and bring that into your culture of what you're building in terms of disrupt your brand. Bring them in because they've been there and dealt with this type of bureaucracy at the retail level, how to work with them, how to understand them, the language, and what to do. So over the last couple of years, we've been bringing in, great folks at Midday Squares and building that environment of warriors that can help us be that disruptor brand at a level that can scale. Because if you can't scale, then what's the point? And, my partners and I, we have our magic and what we're good at, but we're not good at everything. So we've been hiring what we're really bad at. We've been hiring very good people, that are great at that. And what we're really great at, we're trying to play to our strengths and not focus on our weaknesses, because that's insanity. If you actually think about it, is to continue doing your weakness. It's insane. So that's what we've done over the last couple of years, and it's actually making a big difference.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about your strengths, because the question I had waiting for you was, you've got a great product, you've got a great personality. What are some of your other competitive advantages that might not be obvious to everyone?
So my personal competitive advantage, and I would say strength, is to make people feel something deep inside. So when I meet them, when I present to them, when I create content, it makes them feel some sort of emotion, and that brings them usually with the energy to want to come be part of what we're doing. So bringing that community together. My sister is a brilliant creative director. So she understands how to do really whack campaigns and really crazy ideas and bring them to life. So she has the strength to execute on those creatives. And she's head of innovation, so she's really good with food. My brother-in-law is a data guy, so his strength is actually just dealing with data. Reading through data, coming up with execution, giving it to others to actually go get done. And so knowing that took time for all of us to understand our actual skills. At first I was the CMO of the company because, I own the company, and one of the founders, I thought I had to have a managerial role, but I ended up being a horrible CMO and a horrible manager. But it took 8 months to figure that out, of pain. And, it takes time, but once you know your skill or your superpower, your strength, you should be going 100% all in, gas to the pedal on that, and start to hire your weaknesses. Even if you don't have the capital, it will free up capital over time very quickly.
Yeah. Talk in terms of what's ahead. Our audience is primarily a US audience. So talk a little bit about your plans for the US market, and then be thinking about what my last question is, which is where could you use some help? In terms of, some companies say, well, we're looking for next round of investment. We're looking for strategic partner. We're looking for someone that understands, eco-friendly packaging. So what's ahead with respect to the U.S. market in particular, but on a global basis as well? And then where are some areas where you could use some help?
So great question. So our U.S. expansion is happening quickly. We're 70% business in the U.S., 30% in Canada. In the US, we sell at Target, at Whole Foods, at Sprouts, Fresh Time, Fresh Market, a lot of other incredible retailers. We have a lot of more that we want to work on towards, the next 2-3 years. All the big retailers, again, we're a refrigerated bar, so there's limited space, but
Right.
we're trying to work with retailers that are really invested in that space. And Target's been a phenomenal one that we've grown tremendously as an account. I think we went from selling like 3,000 units a week to now anywhere from 40 to 70,000 units a week. So we're doing well. So we're expanding our set and building it. In Canada, we have some other retailers that we're working on too. But I think what we're weak at, or not great at, that we could use and help with, is store execution. So we have a lot of out of stocks and a lot of merchandising, situations, let's call it. So that's something that we could probably use a lot of help on, or whether that's internal, building the team up even more, or hiring externals and all that jazz. But that's where we got to get, in terms of my opinion, better at. I think that we're still leaving $5 to $10 million on the table over North America just on out of stocks and merchandising issues, to be honest with you, and our current retailers.
Yeah, very good. What kind of headwinds and tailwinds are you anticipating? There's a lot of talk about the economy, obviously, and it's all very cyclical, but what are you doing to get the organization either ready for what you believe are going to be great times, or what you think, might be difficult times?
So we think long term for everything. Like I always said, like, it's not monthly or quarterly. We look at yearly typically, and there's some definite headwinds ahead. Like the economy is going, and I think the jobs report came out today, and it was not great in the U.S. and that was not great, and we have cocoa prices at its highest prices ever in history, which is really not great either. And then the economy, people are poorer with inflation and all that stuff. They are poorer. So there is real effects that are happening, but we don't take that into effect in a way that we know about it. We're very aware, but we are focused more on, okay, things are cyclical. If you look at history, all these things are typically cyclical. And, so for us, we're not changing strategies regarding this stuff. We're just focused on, again, making the best customer experience possible, obsessing with our customer, making them a fan, creating innovation that is relevant and quality focused, and then last but not least, being a brand that's relevant. And if we do that, then over time, we should have that compounding effect that happens, if you stay in it long enough, right? And I think that a lot of companies are panicking a little bit right now because they are seeing, there's a decline. People are buying less of certain things. The unemployment will go up and inflation is out of control. And there's a lot of things going on. You also have an election year, which creates, instability in terms of just like, fear and all that stuff. So there's a lot going on. But at the end of the day, I could say that the entrepreneurs in the last 15 years, if you just look at the last 15, 20 years, what they've gone through is fascinating. Like, you've gone through a global financial crisis, maybe two. You've gone through a pandemic, you've had, wars around the world. So instability on supply chain, highest inflation in a very long time, tremendous amounts of stuff that's happened in a short period of time. Yeah. So it's not new, right? What's next? It's not new. And I think the ones that keep getting through this are the ones that will be here forever. Because they understand what the pain and resilience is to get back up and get back up and keep fighting.
Great word. Great word. Jake, I promised to keep it to 30 minutes. I'm going to keep that promise. Jake Karls, co-founder and Rainmaker at Midday Squares. You've got no bigger fan than me. I'm so excited about the success of you and your team and obviously what it's meant to your family. So congratulations. And I look forward to keeping up with you. And please let me know if there's anything we can do to help.
Matt, I always appreciate you giving us a voice. You're a rock star. I'm a fan of you too. So let's keep winning.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Take care, Matt.